I'd be quite alarmed if it's like, oh no, I just get really old, my penis is spent. The next time that this terrible universe in which we're imprisoned decides to give you a surprise rugby tag before repeatedly battering you around there with a spiked baseball bat on fire, just pause for a second. Life's not that bad. Oh, it isn't, Danny, who wrote today's script. It's not that bad, is it, Danny? You just described how it was like an endless prison or something. It's not hard to think of a long list of genuine facts which are bound to put a smile on even the most weary, blood-drenched face. For example, cows have best friends. The blood-drenched face. Yeah, some Ukrainian soldier on the front line is like, oh wow, cows have best friends. That's made my horrible day in a war zone much better. Thanks, Danny. A pizza makes a surprisingly nutritious breakfast. No, it doesn't. A pig's orgasm can last anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes. I don't need to think about pig's orgasms, Danny. I know this video is about sad facts that will fuck up your day and you're supposed to be giving me a happy one, but now I've got a pig orgasming in my mind. That doesn't make me happy, Danny. That's fucking up my day, Danny. And that the average human IQ increased steadily throughout the 20th century to a point where anyone with a deeply average intelligence born in the year 2000 would have been considered a genius about 100 years earlier. Is that true? I want to go back in time. I'll be revered as a giant big brain. But before we find ourselves at risk of floating away on a blissful cloud of wonderment, let's bring ourselves back down to earth again with a tearful reminder that other genuine facts can be achingly sad or downright gut-wrenching. Daddy, why? Why did I choose this one to record today? I don't like it, Daddy.
Just let me interrupt today's video to talk about our lovely sponsor today, and that would be Keeps. Now look, as you can tell, I know a thing or two about male pattern baldness. My hair ran for the hills a long time ago, and it's not coming back. However, I'm fairly confident that if Keeps had been there back in the day when things had just started getting smooth and shiny for me, it might have been a different story. Keeps is an online subscription service that makes it easy and more affordable for guys like me to treat male pattern baldness from the comfort of their own home. That's right, no inconvenient trips to the doctors or pharmacy that eats time out of your busy schedule. You order online and it will be delivered directly to your door at whatever time you deem convenient. And on top of that, it's affordable, typically half the cost of a traditional pharmacy. Keeps offers clinically proven treatments. According to studies, these treatments are 90% effective at treating hair loss and can increase hair growth by up to 35%. Plus, they have a 2-in-1 gel that's like a superhero for your hair. Most Keeps customers notice results within 6 months of starting treatments. And in addition to great treatments, Keeps also offers hair thickening shampoo, conditioner, and styling pomade, so you can help stop your hair loss and make your hair look good while doing it. Keeps has helped nearly 1 million men keep their hair, with over 4,500 5-star reviews from satisfied customers. Every delivery is non-branded, all in plain packaging, and deliveries are made in plain unbranded trucks, so no need to be embarrassed. It may be too late for me, but it's not too late for you. Halt the loss in its tracks before it's beyond hope and regrow, refresh, and reclaim your head. For a special offer, go to keeps.com/Simon or click the link in the description below. That's keeps.com/Simon. And now back to today's video.
How about the thing about raising IQ? Well, researchers are now suggesting that our intelligence peaked around the turn of the millennium, and we've been growing gradually dumber ever since.
I got you a gift. It's a mirror, so you can see how dumb you look.
Assuming that you're still just about mentally capable of absorbing knowledge, stick around for more heartache and grief. Oh no. Wait, does that mean like I'm the peak of human intelligence? I was born in 1987. That's, it's close enough. It's close enough. So all those millennials, anyone born in the year 2000, they're the biggest of big brains. Fascinating. Ming the Clam versus human scientists. Ming the Clam had lived through more than most during its extraordinary long lifetime. The rise, I feel like I know this one. Isn't this the one where the scientists are like, let's see what's inside? And it turns out it's like the oldest living organism ever. And they just killed it to see what was inside.
Yep.
The rise of Western civilization, the Age of Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, mankind's first bold steps into the stars.
You're not mankind.
The cinematic premiere of Mac and Me. Admittedly, Ming probably hadn't been paying much attention. It was, after all, just a clam, or to be more specific, it was an ocean quahog, who had spent most of its long life buried in a sandy seabed. We're not certain of Ming's gender, as it was so incredibly old that scientists concluded its reproductive state to be spent. That's a quote. Well, where's its penis? Oh, that's long gone, mate. That was spent a long time ago. I'd be quite alarmed if it's like, oh no, I just get really old, my penis is spent. You can't recognize my gender anymore. Spent.
Oh, fuck.
But we do know that Ming managed to clock up a pretty impressive 507 birthdays before it tragically encountered human scientists, and this made Ming the oldest known animal on Earth. Well, there are some quibbles to the terminology there. It might be more precise to describe it as the world's oldest known non-colonial animal. Oh, that's like where mushrooms and they're cloning each other and shit, right? Or something like that. Although the Guinness Book of Records chickens out even further by describing it simply as the world's oldest known mollusk. But regardless, we should not pay attention to the Guinness Book of World Records. I loved it as a kid, but it's also pretty silly. In my opinion, allegedly. But regardless of the exact world record it might have unwittingly won, Ming, nicknamed after the Ming Dynasty during which it was born, had certainly been knocking around for quite a bit since its birth in around 1499. So, how can we be so sure about Ming's exact age? Well, it's just a matter of counting its growth rings. There's an ocean quahog, K-hog, Q-hog, quahog, quilid.
Failure!
Adds a new ring to its shell approximately every year. The scientists still managed to cock this up during their first attempt in 2007, when they only counted the rings on the hinge of the clam, which was pretty difficult as the rings were squashed together in a tiny patch. After wrongfully declaring that Ming was 405 years old, the scientists went back and had another go in 2013 by counting up the more evenly spaced rings on the exterior of the shell, which totaled 507. Now that's good to know, but Ming probably wasn't in the mood to blow out any candles in order for those studies to be carried out properly. Ming pretty much had to be dismembered. Scientists, what the fuck? Leave Ming alone.
No.
Now, it's often wrongly reported that the scientists killed poor old Ming in order to determine its age, but that's not really the case, as it had already been killed during what may have been its first encounter with human scientists. It was first dragged from the comfort of its Icelandic seabed in 2000s. Fucking scientists, right? Hey, what's that? What's that? They're just curious motherfuckers, aren't they? By a team of scientific researchers from Bangor University in the UK who were collecting clams as part of a project to help study the effects of climate change. Ming was just one of...
Hey, I'm a scientist.
Ooh, what do you do, like rocket science?
No, I look at clams. I'm a clam scientist.
Ming was just one of around 200 specimens picked up on that day, none of which were presumed to be particularly old or massively interesting in their own right. It's not entirely clear if the clams were all killed before they even made it into the research ship, or if they died when they were all frozen on board in preparation for easy transportation to the labs. Again. Scientists.
Yeah, we're going to look at clams to see if they're being affected by global warming.
Oh, how are you going to do that?
By killing them all!
But they were certainly long dead before the scientists waiting back at the labs got their hands on them and started hacking Ming and his friends to bits, initially unaware that they were dissecting the oldest known non-colonial animal on Earth. The public reaction to this turn of events was pretty hostile, and the scientists at Bangor University were condemned by some as callous murderers. I mean, steady on. They're not murderers, it's a fucking clam. Yeah, it's an old-ass clam, but if you shoot an old horse in the face, no one's gonna be upset. Maybe they would be. Oh, Black Beauty. Your time has come. That dodgy knee, it's not dodgy. It's dodgy now, isn't it? I have no idea where that came from. One of the researchers, James Scorse, pointed out in response that thousands of ocean quahogs are caught and killed commercially every year, often ending up in clam chowder. There's every chance that you have eaten part of an ocean quahog, which was even older than the mighty Ming. In their defense, scientists have also pointed out that collecting and studying clams helps us to explore how oceans have changed over the centuries and offers insight into how some animals can live for such an unfathomably long time. Yeah, forget it. I mean, if cutting open Ming the clam gave me an extra year of life, I'll be like,
crack open his soul, scientists. Let's get in there and find his secrets.
It might even help us to unlock the forbidden secrets of human immortality, but it seems to me that the wisest strategy for any creature hoping to stay alive for hundreds of years is to try and avoid blundering, meddlesome humans. Ming should have legged it at the first sign of trouble. Peter Pan died young and alone. On March the 30th, 1968, a dead body was discovered by two young children playing in an empty apartment in an East Village neighborhood of Lower Manhattan in New York City. Oh no! Wait, are we not talking about fictional Peter Pan? Are we going to be talking about, like, actor Peter Pan or something?
No. Yes.
The body was lying in a cot, or a camp bed as we like to call them in the UK. Yeah, a cot somewhere where you put a baby. A camp bed is like a bed that you fold away and goes out, like if you don't have a guest room or something. surrounded by beer bottles, and it remained unidentified for a year after it was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave. Nobody could have known at the time, but the body belonged to 31-year-old Peter Pan. One of the most useful things I learned as a kid from the original 1904 Peter Pan play by J.M. Barrie and the many subsequent adaptations is that all it takes for a human to begin to fly is a relatively cheerful disposition. All right, Daddy, give that a try.
Look how happy I am today. Woo!
And now you're dead because you jumped off a building, you idiot. Not you, Danny. I was just making a joke. Don't call Toby in HR. Just think of a wonderful thing. This, I was led to believe, is the same as having wings. Before you start leaping from your windowsills, though, here's a quick safety tip. It turns out that you actually also need a decent supply of fairy dust, which I suppose is quite tricky to source, even on the dark web. Perhaps the most famous adaptation of Peter Pan was the 1953 animated movie from Disney, which naturally pours a bucket load of wholesome treacle over some of the darker elements of the original play, but is still a deeply enchanting masterpiece in its own right. Yeah, I remember liking Peter Pan as a kid, even though it was a little bit creepy. Dude, what was that? What's that mega creepy one? I think it was from before Peter Pan, with the elephant with the ears. Dumbo. That movie is fucking scary as shit. That one where they're all like, they're kids, and they go and they're like drinking beers, and they're smoking cigars and playing pool, and then they start becoming donkeys. That used to scare the shit out of me. And now I drink beers and smoke cigars all the time, yet to turn into a donkey. Amazing. The voice of the boy who never grew up is provided here by 16-year-old Bobby Driscoll, who was also used as a live-action reference model for the character. But despite his youth, Bobby's glittering career had already peaked by the time the end credits rolled over Neverland. Born in 1937 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, young Bobby had shot to fame in the 1940s as one of Hollywood's biggest child stars, chalking up appearances in such Disney classics as Treasure Island and So Dear to My Heart, and picking up miniature Oscar statuette when he won a Juvenile Academy Award in 1950. He also starred in the 1946 Disney film Song of the South, but let's not go there today. However, within just weeks of the cinematic premiere of his most iconic role as Peter Pan in 1953, Bobby Driscoll's relationship with Disney Studios came to a rather abrupt end when his contract was suddenly terminated. The official reason was that, unlike Peter Pan, Bobby had started to grow up and was now suffering from a severe case of acne, which clashed with Disney's world of physical perfection. The unofficial reason was that the movie mogul, Howard Hughes, had just purchased RKO Radio Pictures, which was then the distributor of Disney's films, and he absolutely hated child stars. Hughes had allegedly insisted on getting rid of a whole raft of younger actors, including Bobby Driscoll, who Hughes was said to have found particularly annoying. I have to say, child stars, whatever, kids' movies, children need to be in shows and stuff. But sometimes, me and my wife will choose a show on Netflix, and you'll be watching it and you're like, oh no, this is a young adult thing, isn't it? Because it's just got teenagers in it, or 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And I just find those really annoying. I'm just like, this isn't for me. I'm an adult now. I don't want to watch teenage dramas. But on Netflix, it's hard because you're like, oh, this looks like an exciting show. And then you're like, oh, it's young adult shit.
Oh, I'm sorry. That means conversational time is OVER.
Cruelly cast out by Disney, Bobby continued to work on a smaller scale on television and radio in the 1950s, but had already turned to heroin at the age of 17. Fucking hell. As he later put it himself, I was earning more than $50,000 a year working steadily with good parts. Then I started putting all my spare time in my arm. Jesus Christ, when did he say this? 1950s? That $550,000 a year is going to be what? I'd totally ballpark it at $700,000 a year at 17. Fuck. After spending a few months imprisoned in the Narcotic Rehabilitation Center of the California Institute in 1961, Bobby later struggled to find work or security of any kind, and yes, it was indeed his 31-year-old body that was found by two young kids in 1968, surrounded by beer bottles and religious pamphlets. It's not entirely clear how the final few undocumented years of his life had led him to a cot in an abandoned tenement, but I imagine they weren't exactly sprinkled with fairy dust. The unidentified body was ruled to have died from heart failure caused by drug use. At 17. Jesus, that's brutal. Oh, I don't know when he died. It doesn't say 17 there, but I'm just imagining heart failure at 17. It wasn't until a year later that his mother's attempts to find her missing son resulted in a fingerprint match with the body buried on Hart Island, and the news wasn't picked up by the media until 1972. The remains of Bobby Driscoll are still there on Hart Island, but the final tragedy is that nobody even knows the exact location of his final resting spot, as the burial records were destroyed in a fire. It feels like such an unfitting departure for a man who enraptured millions of young viewers in his role as the boy who never grew up. The strange condition, which sounds quite appealing in many respects, but is absolutely useless for buying alcohol, cigarettes, and pornography. Yeah, but you'd have the mind of like a 30-year-old, right? Like at some point, or like however old you are. And your ID would be like 30. So you'd go to the store like,
Hello! 1 case of beer, please!
and they'd be like, gonna need to see some ID, mate. And then you'll be like,
Okay!
and you're like, 37.
Yes! Yes, I'm Peter Pan! I have the Peter Pan thing!
I mean, rubbish. Why dogs love squeaky toys. Ah, the innocence of watching a play. Oh, it's because it's the sound of animals dying, right? I don't know this, but that's got to be it. Ah, the sweet innocence of watching a playful dog go mad for a squeaky toy. If nothing else, it keeps them quiet for half an hour. Yeah, my in-laws have a dog that is loud and aggressive and always running around and doing crazy like will never stop, just like constant energy. It gets a toy, like a squeaky toy or whatever, that shit will last like 20 minutes and then it's completely destroyed. Like, I don't even know how it's possible. I couldn't destroy it, but that dog somehow manages. Well, no, that's not quite right. The whole experience is usually unbearably noisy and irritating, but who cares? Let them have their simple pleasure.
Speak. Good boy.
There isn't, truthfully, a single reason why dogs love squeaky toys so much, as it can largely depend on the nature of the individual dog and why they were bred by humans in the first place. Some dogs do seem to make an emotional connection with the toy and protect it as if it was a baby. Not my f***ing in-laws' dogs. He destroys it. He destroys that. Others aren't even interested at all, as they were bred to avoid silly distractions and keep their noses on the trail. But dog trainers and experts around the world agree that a huge proportion of dogs love squeaky toys for one very specific and quite brutal reason, which might make you go queasy the next time your dog is happily ripping one to shreds in pure delight. That little squeak mimics the final whimpering cry of dying prey, which encourages the dog to viciously move in for the kill. Fucking hell. It's like all that dog that is destroying those toys, and all he's thinking about is death and murder. And the reason they love to rip out all the stuffing is because they feel the need to pull out the entrails of the poor doomed creature to get to the juicy stuff inside.
That is f***ed up.
In that respect, it must feel a bit disappointing for the dog when such dedicated dismembering yields little more than a crap plastic whistle squeaker, a serious choke hazard, which you wouldn't usually expect to find hidden among the internal organs of a genuine kill in the wild. But that won't stop them from having another go next time with typical boundless doggy optimism. It may all sound a bit gruesome, but playing with squeaky toys comes packaged with a wide range of physical and mental benefits for dogs, although it might help the owner if they came packaged with a few headache tablets. I'd highly recommend going for those ultrasonic toys, which make a sound that can only be picked up by the dog's ears, rather than the whole neighborhood. Does that exist? Oh my god, I love that. Because that squeaking is very annoying. Like that 20 minutes before the toy's destroyed, it's like... If only the dog could hear that, that'd be brilliant. I've just bought about 50 of them from my mate, Shifty Sean, who swore on his grandmother's life that they all work. Strange, though, the dog doesn't seem that interested in them. The Curious Birthday on Mars. Most of us probably remember the best birthday we ever had, and I suspect it wasn't a particularly recent one. I have to say I don't. Like, I got no problems, like birthdays are fine, I've had many enjoyable birthdays. Does a specific one stand out? Not really. Some of us may also remember the saddest birthday we ever had. I feel blessed to have enjoyed the vast majority of my birthday celebrations, but I do remember one from many moons ago where I wished I'd never got out of bed. I don't remember a particularly bad one either, so I'm curious about this, Danny. I'd arranged an exciting gathering down at the village pub for about 20 or 30 people, and about 20 or 30 people had agreed to attend, but that morning saw the first surprise heavy snowfall of the season. And if you live outside of the UK, you might not be aware that the slight single snowdrop over here is enough to cripple public services and grind the panicked nation to a halt. Yeah, no one in the UK knows how to drive in the snow. Until I moved to Czech Republic, I had no idea how to drive in the snow. Like, if I went out, you'd just be like, oh! And now I know how to drive in the snow. But, like, we just don't know how to do that in the UK because it so rarely happens. And when it does, everyone's like, not going to work today. Or if you're at work and it snows, not going home. Crazy. I figured this might affect the turnout quite a bit, but I still shoved on my wellies and trudged through the snow to reach the pub in the hope of seeing at least a few of the more weather-hardy faces. Not a single soul turned up. Oh, that's brutal. I felt obliged to sit there on my own for about 4 hours just in case any latecomers put in an appearance, but it was not to be. After closing, I thought I'd cheer myself up a bit by trudging all the way to the kebab house for a lonesome birthday supper, but it had shut early due to inclement weather. Danny, that's rubbish. I'm sorry. It was very tempting to sing a sardonic verse of Happy Birthday to myself on the way home, but I hadn't quite sunk that low. And that must surely be one of the saddest sounds of the universe, a lone rendition of Happy Birthday to Me, sung in complete solitude.
Happy birthday to me.
It must feel even worse when there's nobody else about for a good 140 million miles. So take a moment to consider the birthday celebrations of the Curiosity rover on Mars, which gave a melancholic rendition of the song to itself on its very first birthday. Well, kinda. The rover first landed on Mars in 2012 on a solo mission to explore the red planet's climate and geology and assess the feasibility of colonization by the Illuminati. Hey? It is often widely reported that the Curiosity rover is programmed to sing a verse of Happy Birthday to itself every year on August the 5th, but that's a little wrong on all counts. For starters, it doesn't really sing any words at all. It more just kind of vibrates. The silly boffins at NASA forgot to include any speech chips or a loudspeaker when they constructed Curiosity, so it's going to have great difficulty in making much conversation with any passing Martians or mushroom men. But it does vibrate at various different frequencies while collecting and analyzing soil samples to ensure that every speck of Martian soil gets shaken out of the scoop and into the analysis chamber. So in preparation for Curiosity's first birthday in 2013, NASA decided to celebrate the anniversary of the successful landing on Mars by sending it a program which would get the rover to vibrate to the exact frequencies that make up the tune of Happy Birthday. Can you imagine if they did this and it like overloaded a motor or something because it was like too much vibrating? It was like too random, like do 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 do, and then it just fries Curiosity, and they're like, that was however many billions that was. To be honest, the tinny result sounds not unlike the migraine-inducing noises that got spat out of those really crap handheld video games from the 1980s. But at least it had a go at getting into the birthday spirit, and as far as I know, Warner Brothers decided against sending a representative to Mars to claim royalties on the track that they believed they owned at the time, although the copyright claim was later declared invalid in 2015. But it's also a myth. The Curiosity's shaky rendition of the song is an annual event. NASA could only be bothered to do it once. Florence Tan, the Deputy Chief Technologist at NASA's Science Museum Directorate, that's a mouthful, apologized to The Atlantic if her explanation sounded cold and unfeeling, but there was no scientific value in transmitting the Happy Birthday commands every year, as such a pointless move would only drain the rover's nuclear battery and effectively hasten Curiosity's demise. Sounds a bit harsh. I'm sure that drinking 12 pints of my Cornish cider on my birthday every year only hastens my own demise, but I'm still game. While all this may sound a little sad, Curiosity's rendition of the song ultimately got a far bigger audience than most after the rover's version was uploaded to the internet. Back on my worst birthday ever, when I was banging my head in frustration against the closed door of the kebab house, the only audience I had was a police officer who insisted on checking my pocket for drugs. To be fair, he did wish me happy birthday afterwards, which just goes to prove that there's always a flicker of light in these savage shadows of suffocating darkness. I have to say, Danny, it was less sad than I thought, which is kind of nice. And they didn't fuck up my day. I'm going to have a great fucking day, Danny. Right now, in fact. Thanks for being here.